to a brief tutorial on wheel throwing basics. Now, we've already got our clay centered on our wheel. If you need to look back on previous videos to center your clay, make sure you look back on previous videos to center clay and also wedging. But now that it is wedged and centered on our wheel head, we're going to start opening up this clay body and pulling up walls. Things you'll need, of course, water, an empty bucket to put some water and slip in. You will probably need a wire cutting tool for the end. Have a sponge. And I've also got a couple tools, this wood cutting tool and this rib, as well as another rubber rib that may come in handy at some point. But now we're going to start with, of course, body mechanics are still important. I'm going to dig my elbow into my hip. If you can't, you dig it into your leg. You want to make sure that when you press against it, it has something firm on the other side. So, and as we do this, try to keep your hands connected in one form or another. You want them to be working together as best you can. Just a little touch, a little hold, a little something, so that they are also connected and not working independently. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to find the center of this, we're going to press down and open up this clay body and then pull the bottom and start lifting up our walls. You want your clay body to be pretty wet when we do this, and we want to get moving fairly fast. My rule of thumb is to start fast when we're centering, the fastest we're opening up, and then slower and slower as we start building our walls. Now, get a little water on top of there. Ta-da! Okay. And then I like to actually get a wet sponge and place that wet sponge on top of my hands. I'm just going to press my fingers down into the center of this clay. A little water. And I want to make sure that they don't move. And if it gets a little bit sticky, just squeeze the sponge on top, drops water into the hole. And we're going to press down. And remember, as we press down, do it slowly. And you're not going to want to go all the way to the wheel head. You want to leave at least a quarter inch, if not a half an inch, of clay between your fingers and the top of the wheel head. Okay. So we've got our hole right in the center. Take your sponge as often as you want, just like catch the edges. And then from here, I'm going to open up a little bit by leaning my fingers back. And that kind of creates a little volcano. Then I'm going to pull my fingers towards my thumb to kind of open up my bottom. Alright, so fingers down the center. Watch, I just lean my fingers back. That opens up this center hole into kind of a volcano V. Smoothing out that top. And then I can take my fingers and pull them towards my thumb. My thumb is just on the outside of this clay body, not pressing. And I'm just going to pull those fingers out from the center to the edge. And open up the bottom of my clay. So now I've got something more like a dish. And I take some time here just to like even out the bottom of that. There we go. Now you notice I've got a donut. Alright, so from here we're going to start lifting our walls. Now lifting our walls is a cooperative effort between our fingers, between both hands. Now at this point, I want to remember that my main enemies are centrifugal force and gravity. So everything wants to make this clay go out and down. So especially in the beginning, I'm going to be more concerned with going up and staying in. So don't worry quite so much about coming out for a bowl shape quite yet. We're just going to lift it up. Now I've got one finger on the inside, one finger on the outside. Notice my thumb is connected to my other hand, and my elbow is pretty firmly into my body. All I'm going to do at this point is with my inside finger just hanging out there, I'm going to take this outside one, add some pressure, and just lift up and kind of lay it onto my finger. So this finger's not moving much. This one is just going to lift up and lay that in. There are, of course, several ways to do this. I'm going to press in and just lay that onto my finger. And you see that come up a little bit? Smooth things out. Feel free to search some other techniques. There's a lot of different artists out there that do this different. You can also use your sponge instead of your finger. It kind of smooths out some surfaces and gives a little grace. And now we're going to work together. So that first time I just had my inside finger not moving and just like laying it up on top. Now I'm going to actually lift together. Now that looks like finger on the inside, finger on the outside. Finger on the outside is going to be just a little bit lower. So that when I press these two together, it actually creates a little bit of a ridge above my finger here. And then my fingers are going to cooperatively lift that ridge up and through the top. So making sure, of course, everything is wet. We're going to press out from the inside, in from the outside, create that little bit of ridge, and lift up and through the top. Just like that. Now remember, centrifugal force and gravity are your enemies, so you're going up and in more than out at this point. Okay, now my clay wall is pretty thin at the top and spreads out pretty wide at the bottom. What we're going to try to do is make sure that the clay at the bottom is spread evenly throughout the whole wall of this clay. So we're going to pinch a little bit more at the bottom, pinching together to create that ridge, lifting up and through. Ta-da! So that just made the bottom a little thinner, and then the top stays about the same. Try it again. We're just going to repeat this process. You notice my whole hand has to go in now, but my thumbs are still connected up here. I'm going to slow my wheel down a little bit, create that ridge, lifting up, slowly, and through. Once our clay walls are a little bit more even, we can start kind of defining our shape. Keep your hands wet. And then same thing, so we're going to have our fingers together, thumbs attached, this finger, inside finger a little bit higher than the outside finger, pressing out, pressing in to create that little ridge, and then I can move in and out to kind of define the shape of what I'm making. So inside finger a little higher, outside finger a little lower, pressing to create that ridge, and now if I just come outward a little bit and then come back in, create a little ridge, a little bubble. And I can press that bottom finger down into a little bit, so there's a lot of clay still down here at the bottom of the base. And I'm going to press in from the outside to kind of make my base a little bit smaller and also to lift some of that clay up into the rest of the body. Creating that ridge. Erasing the bubble that I wanted, just to make it different. Okay. Now we can play a lot. So making sure your whole clay body is wet. Let's see if we can get into more of a bowl. So fingers in the same position, but I'm just going to come out a little bit wider. Now don't stress the clay too much. I'm going to do this in increments. Come out wider. Now we can do the same, pressing in, fingers are in the same position. Slowly stretching that clay to come out even farther. Up and through the rim. Here we are. And we have a bowl. We can take our two fingers of one hand, the other finger, and just pinch the top gently and drop that finger on top just to smooth out that ridge. And then pull some moisture out.